property, and I'm going to give that a value of, I think I want icon.png. Could be wrong about some of this stuff, but we'll see in a second. And before I execute that, so pay attention to up here. If this worked right, I'll see an image show up there. And there we go. So as soon as I enter that in, I now have an image for my browser action. So I can click on this thing, but still it doesn't actually do anything. So next, let me give it some behavior. So I'm going to also use another method from this browser action API. And the one that I want here is called set popup. And this also takes an object. I think the property I want is called popup. And I'm going to make this popup.html. I think that's right. All right, so now when I click on this thing, I should actually get a blank pop-up if I did this right. And there we go. I don't know if you can see that, so I'm going to zoom in. So now I have a pop-up attached to this thing. That's all well and good, but I don't actually have any info in my pop-up. So as a last step, let me actually put some HTML in there. So to get to that, I'm going to say inspect pop-up. I'm going to get another inspector here. And now I want to go to the Elements tab, because I'm just going to add some HTML here. And I'm going to say edit as HTML here. And I'm just going to add a div into the body here. Give it a style attribute, white space, no wrap. Thank you. And I'm just going to say hello SD GTUG. And I think that's right. So as soon as I focus out of here, yeah, I must have messed something up. Let me try that again. This inspector has been a little flaky on this latest Canary build, so I'm not positive it'll work, but let's try it again. Let's try to put it in here. What's that? So this is, what I'm looking at now is the DOM of the pop-up. So this is the HTML page that represents this here. Yeah, exactly. All right. I think that looks good. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go. So now we have our pop-up. So this is a very simple example, but I mentioned before that, so I'll actually write a lot of my extensions in here and just copy and paste the stuff out of here. I think I closed my background page window, but you'll notice that every time I typed in a line of JavaScript, I was actually getting the return value underneath that, which isn't that handy if you're copying and pasting, because I would have to edit, cut all those return values out. But actually, now on the Mac version of the DevTools anyway, you can hit Alt-Enter to enter multi-line JavaScript. And hopefully that'll be coming to Windows and Linux soon. So there's an advantage for the Mac for the disadvantage that we had before. Any questions about this stuff? That's true, yeah. But you can't test it as real time as you can by just throwing stuff at the console. All right, so the last use case that I want to talk about is optimizing performance. And for this one, I'm going to show a demo from chromeexperiments.com. So if you haven't seen, we have this kind of cool site, Chrome Experiments, where we have some cutting-edge HTML5 features that are being used with different demos. So this is one that does a zooming in fractal, and I think it does cool stuff when you hit this. It is. This is Canvas. Yeah. Sorry. What? What does it do with the?
What does it do with the data outside of the view?
Yeah.
So the fractal, you're zooming in forever into whatever more detail.
Oh,
what's it doing with everything outside?
I saw it disappeared something else.
It's just throwing it away.
Yeah. Okay, so let me open the DevTools here. And I want to start by, let me profile this JavaScript. So I'm just going to start recording here. And while I'm talking here, like I said, this is going to sample the JavaScript frames 1,000 a second. And as soon as I stop recording, it'll give me info on where the time was spent inside this JavaScript execution. So there's a few different ways I can sort this. By default, it's telling me what the most expensive functions are. So in this function column here, I have the functions that are being called. And then here I have, it's being sorted by self time, so how much time is being spent in each execution of the function. And then I also have total time that'll tell me how much total time is being spent in that function. So normally you would be looking for inefficient functions to make more efficient. But what I'm actually going to look for here is an efficient function that I can mess up. So this one is a pretty good candidate because 70% of the total execution time is being spent in there, but inside the function itself, only 1.2%. And you can see next to most of these functions, we have the line of JavaScript that it's actually implemented in, which is really handy. The ones that do not have this link are native functions. So for example, we have fill, which is a native Canvas function. So let me go to this just draw function, and this is going to take me to the script pane that we just looked at. And yeah, it's when you have compressed JavaScript, it's more difficult to deal with. It would be nice. It's a good feature request. I haven't seen it before, so I would definitely recommend throwing that away. What was that? Oh, he said, I wish there was a beautify feature function built in. All right, so I'm going to do some horrible stuff to this function here. I will put in a for loop here. I'm going to say for var I equals 10, I minus minus console.log I. Yeah, this is not good. You don't want to do this. All right, I think that should be good, or bad as the case would be. Yes. Okay, so again, this is real time. So as soon as I open my console, I should be seeing a whole bunch of numbers show up in there, which is what I am seeing. So that's that worked. Yes. Hopefully my machine will survive here. So I'm going to go back to the profiles, and I'm going to record again. And I'll let it run for a little bit. No, yes, so it started at 10, and subtract 1 from I every time, and eventually it'll get down to 0 and it'll terminate. If I typed that in right. I think I did. Okay. Okay, so now I have a second profile. Remember, in my first profile, it was spending 1.2% of its time in itself. Now in my second profile, this justDraw function, I'm going to sort by the total again. So now we're up to almost twice as much time inside the function. So obviously this could be a good candidate for optimization. So let me go back to this function and fix it up before my machine melts here.